Hello YouTubers, on today's video we'll be grilling blackened Michigan steelhead. And have you ever heard of buddy cooking? Well, today you will. To start, I'll be using 2 fillets of Michigan steelhead caught from the Muskegon River by a good friend of mine, Bill. I'll be preparing my fish fillets in my driveway. That's where we're permanently parked right now until our next camping trip. Since it's a rainy afternoon, I figure I would do some grilling underneath the awning of the camper and at the same time do a little video for grilling while camping. Everything I'm using is right out of the camper and nothing's out of the house. Like I said, my good friend and neighbor Bill from across the street had caught this steelhead and given it to me to fix at my leisure. So what I've done is completely rinsed it off and patted it dry with paper towels. That way I get rid of all the moisture and it won't be quite so slimy. This also makes it more receptive to receive the seasoning I'll be putting on it, in a few minutes. I anticipate the cooking time to be about 6 to 8 minutes, probably on the lower side. And then what I'll be doing is I'll be sprinkling on the seasoning that I'd gotten from Tarpon Springs. It happens to be a seafood blackening spice blend that I picked up from the sponge docks while visiting Tarpon Springs. I'll also be using some spray-on olive oil to keep the fish from sticking, and then of course I'll have a Bud Light just for my own refreshment. I'm using the trusty gas grill that I've had for the last 2 years. It's worked out quite well for us. It's the older version of the Giantex portable tabletop gas grill, all stainless with twin burners. By the way, that blue or purple tint is nothing more than my blue light from my awning. I'm also using a round perforated seafood platter that I've covered with tin foil. That way I can spray the oil on it and the fish won't stick. It's easy to clean up afterwards. Of course, now it's time for a little bit of refreshment, so I'll take a little bit of Bud Light. After lighting the grill, the next thing I do is I'll spray that tray with the olive oil, and then following that I'll sprinkle the seasoning over the fish fillets, and I make sure that I put plenty on it. Of course, you can do it to your own liking. The more you put on, the more of a kick that it's going to have. But as I said, I just sprinkle it on, make sure I get the whole fillet covered up on both sides. And so I do the meat side first, and then after that I'll be placing it directly onto the grill. I don't rub it in, I just simply pat it. That way it doesn't rub off. Like I said, once I've got it all applied on the meat side of the fillets, I'll place them meat side down onto the tray. Once I've put both fillets meat side down, then I'll sprinkle more seasoning on the skin side. You might not get that much flavor that way. I just like to just give it a little bit of an extra push. I figure by flipping it back and forth, it'll probably pick up the seasoning one way or another, and hopefully some will soak right on through. Besides, it makes me feel good and it looks good once I put it on both sides. Of course, right after that I take another little swig of beer, and it's time to close the cover for probably about 3 minutes, and then I'll check it afterwards. After the fillets have been on the grill for about a minute or so, I'll take a peek at it to make sure that everything's all right, and I'll sprinkle on the remnants of the spices that's in a pan on it. and get ready to let her sit now for another 2 or 3 minutes. And so, of course, that's a good time to take another little beverage just so I don't get dehydrated. After they've been on about 3 minutes on the meat side, it's time to open it up and take a look and flip them over to the skin side. I usually like to take a look at it, make sure that they're firming up quite nicely, which they appear to be doing quite well. One of my favorite tools happens to be this spatula. I picked this up this last winter when I was down in Florida, and I've been really happy with it. It's really handy to get underneath large pieces of fish and flip them without the fish falling apart on you. You can do other things like hamburgers or pancakes or whatever, but it's a real handy tool. I also have a smaller one that I use for hamburgers. A quick check with the fork and I can tell that the meat's starting to flake, and so it looks like it's going to be coming along quite well. Now these gloves and liners that I'm wearing is some of my favorite tools. I never grill without them. The gloves are very nimble, they're form-fitting, and it allows me to pick things up, move them around, kind of like spare ribs, or even you can pick up a steak and flip it over, and with the liners you just don't get burned at all. And so it allows you to work over the heat and not feel uncomfortable. So it's something I really enjoy using quite frequently. And then as far as the availability, I'll leave you the links in the comment section, but I usually get a box of 100 of the gloves and a box of 10 of the liners, and those work out very well and they're very comfortable to use. As a footnote, when we do Thanksgiving dinner at the VFW, my wife and I always volunteer to help out, and I always take several pairs of the gloves and the liners just so I can let some of my fellow helpers use them. It allows me to kind of reach in and debone the turkeys without burning my hands. Also, at the same time, I can pick up a ham that's been cooking in a roaster, and without having any burning sensations at all either, I can actually handle it quite comfortably. So, as you can see, it looks like the fish is doing quite well. So we're going to close her up and let her sit for another 2 or 3 minutes. Well, the steelhead has been on the grill for about a total of 6.5, 7 minutes. So it should be pretty well done by now. And so we'll just shut off the grill and we'll get them pulled off and ready to serve up. My guess is, by looking at them, I'd say they're probably a little bit overdone, but I still think they're going to be very edible. The typical time I think that it should have been in there is no more than a total of 3 minutes on each side. That should be more than enough to do it. As you can see, colors real well. It looks like it's pretty flaky, so it's just going to fall right apart. And it's going to be quite a tasty dinner. I'll just shut off the grill and close her up, and then come out and pull the foil off later when she cools down. I know this is a little out of sequence, but I'm going to pan the camera around just so you can kind of see what our surroundings are. Again, I've got the camper parked in my driveway. It's hooked up to a 30 amp, and I've also got water hooked up to it. So we can use it just as like a spare room or extension of the house. So across the street is Bill and Carol now. Bill and Carol are out of St. Clair Shores, which is Michigan, which is over by Detroit. Bill is the individual, or the good friend of mine, that happened to provide us with tonight's dinner of the steelhead that he caught in the Muskegon River. So, and that Muskegon River is only about 5-10 miles away from us. So it goes all the way through Newaygo County and into Muskegon County and right into Lake Michigan. So a lot of good fishing in this area, so as well as hunting. Bill also brings over some very good walleye on a very frequent basis every time he comes over from St. Clair Shores, because he fishes and lives right off of Lake St. Clair, of course. So just a little shot of our woods, which just happens to be the Manistee National Forest, which is part of that. Stretches all the way up towards northern Michigan. Our little 1,000 square foot retirement home, and of course my garage with workshop, and right back to where I have my little grill set up outside by the camper. YouTubers, this is no joke. My neighbor was telling me about this, and he uses this for his ice fishing. It's called buddy cooking. I couldn't believe it, but he insisted this is what he does from time to time. And his wife Carol, he even admitted that he does do this when he goes ice fishing. What he has is a buddy heater. This happens to be the little buddy. I'd recommend using it with the regular buddy, or else having a smaller tray. But what you do is you've got one of those round trays. It's like a seafood tray or a perforated vegetable tray. I just happen to have foil on it, but you have to bend back the arm on it, or the little lip. I don't have it bent right now because what happens is I have it too high, but you want to put it at the top level. But I'll put it down here on a couple levels down on the grill so you can kind of see how it works. But basically what he does is he takes like egg burritos or breakfast burritos from McDonald's, or he'll get something that's frozen over at the grocery store, like the little burritos or egg rolls or whatever. And or even he'll take leftover pizza and wrap it up in foil, and he'll put it on that tray and turn on the buddy heater. The heat, not only generated from that buddy heater, not only warms up his shanty, but it also heats up whatever he wants to eat that later on in that morning or that afternoon, whatever it happens to be. And so now I'm a little cautious about it because I do have a large tray sitting on a smaller buddy heater, but I think if you've got the larger buddy heater or a smaller tray, it would work out quite well. Now, I'm not recommending this, but I thought that you RVers, especially those who have conversion vans and smaller RVs, should be aware of this. So you might want to give it a shot, but once again, use caution. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And most of all, thanks for watching.